Hey guys, it's your girl Vanessa. Welcome back to my channel and thank you guys all for tuning in again. So you guys, today's reading is going to be all about your next week and things that you may not have expected. So I have 4 groups prepared for you. So I want you to pick one of the 4 groups intuitively. If you sort of feel drawn to 2 groups or you can't make up your mind, feel free to tune into 2 readings as your personal reading may be a mixture between the 2 groups. So yeah, you guys, there isn't really that much more to say. I want to keep this intro very short and to the point so we can get straight into the readings. Actually, I did forget something. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And also, if you're new to my channel, do not forget to subscribe. That would immensely help my channel. So yeah, you guys, let's get straight into the readings. Hi guys, and welcome to today's reading. So we have a group number 1, group number 2, group number 3, and group number 4. So if you need a second to meditate on the cards, feel free to pause this video in order to do that. Otherwise, if you've chosen your group for today, I will get straight into the reading. So as usual, the timestamps will be down below, so open up that description box and click your timestamp in order to fast forward to your particular reading. Okay, group number 1, we have the Tower, the Hanged Man, the Queen of Swords, and the King of Swords. So initially I see in the Tower that there's going to be some sort of loss of stability, some sort of like you're going to abandon old relationships, old projects. I see sort of like new beginnings and also inevitable change. So I see that there's change happening that you can't really do anything about. You're moving into the unknown. There's going to be a sort of transformation. And I see like it's going to be very sudden and it's going to be complete change that takes you sort of by surprise. So I feel like that may have happened just because you've let a situation develop into this. So this sudden change can be something positive, it can be something negative. I'm not really 100% sure, but I see that, you know, you've been sort of in this limbo. You've maybe been in this limbo in a relationship or with your work. You've been in a situation that's not necessarily comfortable, but you've sort of made yourself comfortable in it. And I see that now things are going to transform and move into a unexpected sort of direction. So that's what I see with the Tower. A lot of unexpected, a lot of unknown, and your life just moving in a pace, at a pace that you did not expect. So things are going to be happening really, really quickly. In the Queen of Swords, I can see that you're a very smart person, you're a very intellectual and logical person, but yet I still see a soft side to you. The King of Swords sort of tells me that you're very authoritative and that sometimes your words can cut deep. So if this fundamental change has to do with any sort of relationships, has to do with other people, and you know, you're having a lot of contact with other people in terms of this change, I see that it's important for you to choose your words very wisely, because the swords can be a little bit, how should I say, can be a little deprived of warmth, of emotion, of actually having empathy for other people. So make sure that you keep your empathetic streak and make sure that you don't see everything as it just either being logical or not being important at all. So what I also see is a lot of new developments mentally and spiritually. Alongside with the Tower, I just see that you may be having some sort of epiphany, because you do have this loss of stability, but at the same time, you know, you're thinking really hard, you're thinking really fast, you're coming up with new ideas, and just mentally there are a lot of structures in your life that are changing on a mental basis. And you know, you have a lot going on in your head, however they have not fabricated into the real world yet. So in the Hanged Man, I see that if you do know that you've been a little more stagnant or a little slower than you should have been, that you've just been looking at things from a safer distance, make sure you get in there now. Make sure you put in movement, because I see that that is something that may be missing. You know, you're sitting, you're hanging, and there's like a big destruction, a big change happening, an inevitable change. So make sure that you move to the beat of the change. Make sure that you're not just sort of staying stagnant and then every once in a while a big change forces you out of your position. Make sure that you're the one to take the initiative and to move like in the directions that you desire in your life, and make sure that you do that with a very calm, caring, sort of compassionate voice. Then for next week, I see some sort of creative wonderment. I see you following your passion. I see you maybe, reigniting the flame with one of your passions. And I see you really focusing on things that you're passionate about. And if you didn't even think about it up until this point, you chose this reading for a reason. There are no such things as just, coincidences that are meaningless. This coincidence has a meaning. So if there's a passion of yours that you haven't really been looking into, maybe that's what you need to get your life back in balance. Because I feel like the Tower, this situation, this change, this inevitable moving into the unknown, it may have happened because you have not had that balance in your life, because you have not been following through with your creative ventures. So make sure that you have that balance, and make sure that you always sort of reinforce a bit of a creative side of yourself. Then we have resilience. So resilience is something that you're going to need next week and in the upcoming weeks as the Tower situation progresses. So I see that this may come with a lot of liberation in the end. That's why we have moving forward, because you feel like you're going to be able to move forward. You feel like you're going to be able to move on with this positive change, but sort of like the whole process may be really draining, may be really tiring. I see that you're going to need resilience, and you're going to have to rise above tribulations. And the fact that we have the swords, we have this sort of air element here, I can see that you'll be able to communicate clearly, and you'll be able to make that sort of progress. But you need to remember to stay strong, to have resilience, and also to keep balance in your life. Make sure that you pick up that hobby that you love again. If it's something creative like drawing, writing, singing, that's perfect, because it gets you into a totally different headspace. And that way you can make sure you have balance and you're able to be very resilient and you don't crack. And that way you're going to overcome any sort of change fundamentally. And in the end, you're going to be moving forward with positive change, because I see that it is time for you to start getting ready for positive change. So that is what I see for you for next week. Okay, group number 2. We have the 8 of Wands, we have the 5 of Wands, we have the 5 of Pentacles, and we have the Knight of Cups. Initially, I see a lot of movement. I see maybe new sort of opportunities and ideas coming your way. And I see that this is a time to put force behind things, and also to be open to new ideas, be open to creativity, be open to trying out new things, as I see that that will move you at a very fast pace in the direction that you want. So the 8 of Wands is really a very positive card. It's a very positive card of, creative ventures sort of flowing, creative ventures being born. And that is something that I see for you next week. As well as in the 5 of Wands, I see that you may be a little worried about competition. You may feel like you're competing with your creative ideas, because there are so many people out there who are super creative, super talented, and it may sort of make you feel like your idea may not be unique enough, or you may feel like so many people are already doing what you are trying to do, or so many people are doing what you want to do, but they're already doing it better than you. And that is a very dangerous space, because you need to remember that there's enough for everyone. The mindset of scarcity can be sort of a vicious cycle, so that's something that I want you to look out for next week. And also make sure that you're not competing with other people, because competing with other people, being in competition with them, is never a good idea, because you don't know what someone else is going through. You don't know what sort of help someone else had, and also where they started from and where they are trying to go. Unless you are that person, you never truly know. Especially in the day and age of the internet, it's really easy to compare your work or compare your life, your sort of surroundings with other people. And don't do that, because oftentimes images are just a little photo of one little moment. That doesn't mean that someone's life is always like that. That doesn't mean that they're really doing whatever they're doing. So make sure that you stay true to who you are, and you don't just jump to conclusions and start feeling like you're in competition with other people. The only person that you should be in competition with is yourself, and the only person that you should be trying to be better than is the person that you were yesterday. So keep that in mind. Also, I see in the 5 of Pentacles that you may be overly concerned with things in the earthly realm. So while I see that you're birthing a lot of amazing ideas and things can be moving at a very fast pace if you let them. I also see that you may get hung up on things like money, time, physical appearances, all of that kind of stuff, and you know, it's really setting you back. So if you let that happen, it may set you a lot further back than you thought or you expected. And it's important for you to make sure that you are not too concerned with material things, you're not too concerned with, you know, just aesthetics. Make sure that you don't just build something that looks beautiful on the outside, make sure that you are truly beautiful on the inside. So focus on spirituality, focus on building yourself mentally, on building your self-confidence, and, you know, just stripping down all of the layers of your outer shell and really working on yourself, like at the core, you know. So if you are at the moment very concerned with finances, with material things, maybe even material things because you feel like you need them to fit in, make sure that you remember that you're not in a competition with people, okay? You are your own person, and the only person you should be competing with is yourself. Otherwise, that will just slowly eat away at you and destroy you. So then in the Knight of Cups, I see that next week on an emotional level, while you may be a little bit overly concerned, as I saw in the Five of Pentacles with things in the earthly realms, I see that emotionally you sort of have like a little bit of a guard. However, you're there for people, and that's something amazing. I see that alongside with your ideas that are growing, that are thriving, I can see that you're emotionally more or less in a stable place. I feel like your relationships are moving forward and going places, and you're really bringing them to the next level. So that's something amazing, and that's something that I want you to keep up. And also, don't be too guarded. I see that you are a little bit guarded, maybe a little bit more than necessary. So if you can, just let that guard down a little bit, as you don't need it next week. Next week is a week to focus on you mentally, to make sure that the only person you're competing with is yourself, and also to make sure that you have your priorities straight. Make sure you're in it to win it for all of the right reasons. Then potential. So I see amazing potential in you, honestly. I feel like you need to think bigger for your future. I feel like maybe you haven't been thinking as big as you could or should. And I see that there is amazing potential, especially next week. So alongside with the birth of new creative ideas, of new ventures, make sure that you see the full potential of each and every idea that you have, of each and every venture. And don't sort of feel like you're not good enough or you can't go that far. You know, many people have done it before you, so why not you? There's literally no reason why you cannot reach the same level as other people have. Then we have Angel of Miracles. So I see that it's important for you, like I already mentioned in the Knight of Cups, it's important for you to open your heart a little more, to open up emotionally. I feel like maybe you are a little bit too guarded just because you are worried of sort of being in competition, and you are sort of worried of, you know, other people eating your piece of the cake. And I want you not to worry about that. The cake is big enough for all of us. You know, there's enough abundance and money out there to go around for everyone. All you need to do is make sure that you focus on yourself and your creative ventures. Then we have the Dragon. So in the Dragon, I see that it's important for you to rediscover how courageous you really are. It's important for you to really dig deep within yourself, and it takes courage to really look at yourself from an objective point of view. You know, see the good and the bad in you. Be courageous, and be courageous enough to dream really big, and make sure that you go after the biggest, wildest dreams that you've ever had, because I can see that all it really takes is for you to open up and stop feeling like you're in competition with other people. That way you can start focusing on yourself solely and your own growth. So for next week moving forward, those are the things that I see as important for you. Okay, group number 3. Okay, in group number 3, we have Strength, we have the King of Wands, the King of Cups, and the Emperor. So in Strength, I can see that it's important for you to focus on love, focus on grace, focus on compassion. I see that it's important for you to be very self-aware next week. So make sure that you're aware of yourself on a spiritual and mental and emotional level. And also make sure that you remember that it's important to treat others with compassion, love, kindness, because that strength really comes from being mindful. Remember that how you interact and communicate with the people around you, that really determines whether you're strong. That really determines whether you have compassion, and whether you're self-aware. Another thing that I see is a lot of determination. So I feel like next week you're determined to get things done. Alongside with the Emperor, I see that you're sort of like scheming your little plan of taking over the world, so to say. So next week is an amazing week to plan your next steps, and it's an amazing week to really have a clear sort of vision. And that's really what the Emperor is telling me. The Emperor is telling me that next week you will sort of see things with a very clear sort of neutral vision. You'll see things objectively, and that will light up new paths and new ways for you to move forward in life. And also I see that just as a whole financially, I feel like this is a good time for you to make plans on how you should invest your money, what next steps you're going to take to build more financial abundance, and also just generally how you spend your money. You know, this is a good time for you to really look into your finances and figure out what is going well and where you can improve. Then in the King of Cups, I see that next week is a week where your intuition is on a high. It's very strong, and you know, it's important for you to dig into that. It's important for you to delve into that, alongside with the King of Wands, where you have a very sort of heightened creativity, a very heightened drive. You're very sort of fiery, you know, you're ready to get things done. So I can see alongside with your intuition being on an all-time high and you having that sort of an authoritative ability to plan and foresee things, I see that it's very important for you to use this magical power that you have next week and put it into something meaningful. Also, the King of Cups tells me that you're still going to be very nurturing, yet very emotional as well. So make sure that you're aware of your emotions, how you let your emotions affect you and your relationships. And also with all of this authority and power that you have next week, I see there also comes sort of like a little bit of suspicion. You may have sort of a little bit of a heightened sense of trust issues next week. So make sure that that doesn't instill in you, and make sure you don't carry that on any further. Make sure that you still believe in the good in yourself and other people, and just don't be too suspicious and don't feel like there's anyone trying to come after your throne. Make sure that you just use all of the positive things that you have for next week. I see that you have a high sense of diplomacy and also like awareness, self-awareness, alongside with strength. I see that that is something that is very strong next week. So make the best use of all of this energy, of all of this authority that you have. Then we have money. So as already mentioned earlier, I see that next week is a great time for you to plan things financially. Also, I feel like next week you may tap into a little bit of extra money that you didn't expect, or you're going to lay the foundation for an extra sort of money bag to come into your life. So I see that it's important for you to focus on your plans, on finding a way to create a little bit more abundance into your life financially, because I feel like money is something that you've been sort of consumed with. Money is something that you find sort of interesting and attractive, and you want more of it. So as I can see that that is something that you really want to attract more of in your life, it's up to you to find ways to attract financial abundance into your life. So make sure that you remember that you create your life and you create your finances. So if you wish to increase or improve your finances, make sure that you take the initiative and you find ways to do so. And we have choices. So I see that you have a lot of choices that you are able to make next week. I see that, like I said, next week is an amazing week to plan. Next week is an amazing week to make big moves and important moves. And I see in choices that it's important for you to use your strength, use your empathy, and also use that self-awareness to make the best choices. So be realistic, you know, really think about what your motives are in all of the decisions, what your motives are in the choices that you can make, and just think about, you know, what you stand for. You have a lot of kings, you have the Emperor, so think of what it is that you stand for. Think of what it is that is important to you and that you feel your choices should be based on. So that is something that I see you having to really dig deep into next week. Then we have owls. So So alongside with the King of Cups, I see that your intuition is going to be very heightened, and the owl is telling you to follow it. So you have your little spirit animal, you have your little owl with you next week, constantly reminding you to follow your intuition. So of course your spirit animal might not come in an owl, you might keep seeing like the same sort of bird, it seems, over and over again, but there's going to be something next week that's going to remind you to keep following your intuition. So that could be sort of a repetition of a song, of numbers, of an animal that you're seeing. So if you feel like you have that in your life next week, make sure that you remember that it is your spirit guides trying to tell you to follow your intuition and trust your intuition. So those are the unexpected things that I see for you next week. Okay, group number 4. Let's see what next week has in stock for you. Okay, so we have the Nine of Swords, we have the Two of Pentacles, the Devil, and the Chariot. So I can see in the Nine of Swords that you're sort of like overly worried next week, that something is sort of plaguing you, that something is on your mind, but it is still in your mind. It's not something that is actually fabricated into the real world yet, but you're very worried about something. You may even have like a few nightmares, a few daymares, and I see that you may be sort of like restless next week. So in the Two of Pentacles, I feel like you need to balance things out. So I think that these may be things in the earthly realm for you. So I feel like maybe you're sort of concerned about your financial situation or also your health, and that is something that is sort of scaring you and intimidating you and keeping you in this sort of space where you're a little bit in agony, you know what I mean? Like you're constantly sort of worried, and I want to tell you that the worry is sort of justified, because in the Devil, I see that something may want to try and make an appearance in your life again. And this particular thing that wants to come back into your life, I see that that is something that would have a negative influence on you. So that is either, you know, maybe partying a bit too much, maybe overindulging in unhealthy food. It could be an ex, it could be an ex-friend. And I see that something is trying to make its way back into your life, and it's up to you to really make the choice to not let it in. You know, you have choices. You do not need to let the devil into your life. You do not need to let any of these negative forces that are trying to get back into your life, you don't need to allow it. So make sure that you balance your choices and that you make the right ones. And then also in the Nine of Swords, I see that it's important for you to remember that the things that you're worried about are just happening in your head. They're just sort of mental things happening, and it hasn't fabricated into the real world. So make sure that you're not worrying for no reason. Make sure that you're not sort of making yourself nervous and unhappy for no reason. Make sure that you're not depriving yourself of sleep. So I see that what you need here is really to just meditate and really to just look at things from a distance and see that you actually do have a choice. And even though you feel like you're slowly slipping away into letting this negative force back into your life, you can take the reins back into your hands, as the Chariot suggests. So I see in the Chariot that something that you're going to look into next week is a new direction. You want to take direction of your life again, and you want to steer it in a positive direction. So one thing that I see next week is, while the week may have started off sort of rough for you, while there may have been sort of things that you're very worried and fearful of, I see that you're going to take the reins back into your hands, and you're going to lead all of your forces, everything, all of your intentions. You're going to lead all of that in one direction. So I feel like the reason why you may have mentally felt a little bit tormented or a little bit torn is because all of your intentions, all of the things that you want, I see that they're not all in tune with you emotionally, spiritually. I feel like you've sort of been torn in different directions, and you haven't been really sure where to go in your life and which direction to steer in. But I feel like next week is a week where you're going to be able to put all of your forces, all of your strength into one direction, and make sure that you're leading your life to where you want it to go. So that is something that I see coming for you next week. So don't worry. I know that group number 4 seems a little bit dark, but don't worry about it. In the Chariot, I see that you're totally going to take direction, and you're going to lead yourself back onto the path that you wanted to be on. Then we have the 7 deadly sins, so humanity's destructive traits. So I see that next week you're going to be very aware of how destructive it can really be to be in a negative space mentally or be overly worried, and you'll be able to realize that you just need to balance things, and that you're able to balance things, and that you can take your life into your own hands and steer it into the direction that you want it to. But you're going to be a lot more aware of how destructive a bad mindset can really be, of how destructive humanity as a whole is, of how destructive society is, what it's doing to, you know, the images of ourselves, of our own bodies, of our own sort of mental health. So that is something that I see you being a lot more aware of. Then in enlightenment, I see that it's very important for you to pursue spiritual growth next week. I see that next week is a time where, especially after you have avoided any sort of negative force that may be wanting to come back into your life, I see that you're going to have an enlightenment. I see that you're going to have a very light, fluffy sort of feeling of, you know what, it wasn't as bad as I made it out to be. It wasn't as negative as I thought it would be, because I took the reins back into my hands and I made sure that I was steering in the right direction. So I see sort of like enlightenment, and I see this as an amazing time for spiritual growth, and also for you to just remember that what you do in your head really determines where your life goes. So as soon as you turn things around and as soon as you steer in the right direction, I see the devil like just gradually disappearing out of your life, as you know, you have set yourself mentally to not let any sort of negative force back in. Then we have the dolphin. So like I said, your reading may have at first glance been a little bit of a scary one, because we do have the Nine of Swords and the Devils, which can be very heavy cards. However, with the dolphin in the reading, I see that it's important for you not to worry. So don't worry, be happy. That's literally the essence of the dolphin. The dolphin is a very gentle, super smart animal, and I see that sort of represented in you. So sometimes being very smart and being very sharp and being thoughtful can be a disadvantage. So that's why the Nine of Swords may have showed up in your reading, because you are so aware of life and your surroundings. You know, smart people, they always say smart people worry a lot more and are less happy because of that. So remember to not to worry and just to be happy. Remember that things always work out for the better as long as you believe and as long as you put all of your positive forces into the right direction. So these are the unexpected things that I've seen for you next week, and most importantly, don't worry, be happy. Okay, you guys, that was it for today's reading. I hope you liked it, and I'm wishing all of you an amazing, positive day. I'll see you in my next video.